In Colombia, armed groups and police continue shootings and aggression against indigenous people and protesters, accounting for about 50 victims. At least 13 people were killed and 37 others injured in two bomb blasts in Afghanistan. In Palestine, Israeli forces stormed the AL-AQSA mosque and wounded hundreds of Palestinians. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. We start with the news. In Colombia, 47 people have been killed during the national outbreak against the economic reforms imposed by the government of Iván Duque, 39 of them due to police brutality. According to the Colombian NGO Temblores that monitors police violence in the country and the Institute for Peace and Development, in the past, law enforcement have arbitrarily detained 963 people and also committed sexual abuse against 12 women. As of Monday, 278 police violent attacks have been reported, as well as about 2,000 violent events and 28 eye injuries victims due to police shooting at demonstrators' faces. Between April 28th and May 7th, 548 protesters went missing. In Colombia's capital, Bogotá, mothers of victims of extrajudicial executions have rallied, waving squares of cloth representing the thousands of disappeared people. According to a special courts report, Colombia's military carried out at least 6,400 extrajudicial killings and presented them as combat deaths between 2002 and 2008, a number significantly higher than previously estimated. Until last year, the public prosecutor's office had only acknowledged 2,249 executions of civilians between 1988 and 2014, and the majority of which were carried out between 2006 and 2008 during the presidency of Álvaro Uribe, the political mentor of the current president Iván Duque. The mothers of the victims have joined by feminist groups as part of ongoing protests against the government of President Iván Duque, which began on April 28th.
I am with the mothers who have just lost their children today because we have already lost them and we know what such great pain is. Today I am here for my son, for Eduardo Garzón, because he is dead, but I am his voice. I am his steps. I am his hands. I don't want any more bloodshed. I don't want it.
And hundreds in Puerto Rico have mourned at the funeral of Keisla Rodriguez, who is believed to have been murdered by her lover, boxer Felix Verdejo. The 27-year-old Rodriguez was pregnant when she was killed and reported missing a week ago. Her body was identified on Sunday via dental records. A grand jury on Thursday involved Verdejo in the killing of his pregnant lover, a case potentially eligible for the death penalty. Authorities, based on testimony from an identified witness, accused Verdejo of punching Rodriguez in the face, injecting her with an unidentified substance, biting her arms and feet with a wire, tying a block to her, and then throwing her off a bridge last Thursday.
We are sad because of this, because she was a very quiet girl, and she was always kind to everyone, always leaving home to work and back home, taking the dogs for a walk, quiet, always at home.
It hurt us. I have 5 children, and we all support Keisla and her family, and support every woman who has suffered like this in Puerto Rico. Their mothers and the mother of the one involved in Keisla's death too. But who knows who is responsible? It is unknown, but to the one who watches up above us, we are in prayer.
So right now, join us again after this.
tal? Sean todos muy bienvenidos a Vidas. Hay lugares donde el arte se unifica con el orgullo de los pueblos. Y esos lugares están llenos de colores, alegría, pasión, tradiciones, arraigo, valor y entrega.
Real Life. Fridays. Only on teleSUR. Innovation, science, the technological breakthrough and its influence in society.
Viajeros del saber, el futuro está aquí.
Atomy. Monday, only on teleSUR.
为了保持身体健康，我冥想。
Para mantenerme saludable, yo corro.
To keep myself healthy, I study.
Για να διατηρηθώ υγιής, τρέφομαι σωστά.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo bailo.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo purifico mi espíritu a través del cuerpo. ¿Y tú?
Get your body. Tuesdays, only on teleSUR.
Welcome back from the south. On Monday, at least 13 people were killed and 37 others injured in two bomb blasts that occurred in two provinces of Afghanistan right after the Taliban announced a 3-day ceasefire, the Interior Ministry stated. Taliban ceasefire across Afghanistan marked this week's Eid al-Fitr holiday, 2 days after more than 50 people were killed in bomb blasts outside a school in the capital, Kabul. The announcement comes as the United States continues to pull out its last 2,500 troops, 20 years after it invaded the country and removed the Taliban from power. US-led efforts to bring peace seems to have faltered as talks between the Taliban and the Afghan government have hardly progressed. Afghan President Ashraf Ghani declares a day of national mourning for Tuesday after dozens of young girls were killed when a secondary school was targeted in the bloodiest attack in Afghanistan in over a year.
While we share our grief and mourning with the families, to respect of the martyrs of the terrorist attack on innocent students in Logar province and the innocent female school students in Kabul, I am announcing a public mourning on Tuesday this week, and the ceremonies of offering prayers and condolences for the martyrs of these tragic incidents will be held in the Ark Mosque. All government departments in Kabul, provinces and countries' representations abroad, and other mosques.
On Monday morning, Israeli forces stormed the AL-AQSA mosque in Jerusalem, firing tear gas and sound bombs at Palestinians, wounding hundreds. Meanwhile, in Gaza, the resistance brigades informed of a missile retaliatory strike against the occupation forces. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society informed that at least 305 Palestinians were injured by Israeli security forces. The Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is Islam's third holiest site, has been a focal point of aggression by Israeli illegal settlers against Arab prayers throughout the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. Tensions have also been fueled by the violent expulsion of Palestinian families from their homes in the East Jerusalem. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas held Israel responsible for these attacks. While Jewish national groups were planning a march on Jerusalem's Muslim quarters, in Gaza, a spokesperson of the Al-Qassam resistance brigades announced a missile attack against Israeli positions in Jerusalem. On Monday, Iran officially confirmed holding negotiations with Saudi Arabia to mend ties and resolve the issues standing in the way of normal relations, Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Saeed Khatibzadeh stated in the first public acknowledgement of the talks by Tehran. The two countries cut bilateral ties in 2016 over scandals around the execution of a Shiite cleric in Saudi Arabia and rejects claims of Iran's meddling in the domestic affairs of regional powers. Also, the Saudi Foreign Ministry's head of policy planning, Rayed Krimli, shared that Iran and Saudi Arabia are engaged in negotiations to reduce tensions in the region. However, neither side has developed details of the talks, but reports said that in addition to bilateral ties, Tehran and Riyadh are talking about developments in Yemen and Iran's 2015 nuclear deal with world powers that Saudi Arabia has opposed. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reported that at least 25 people have been killed in the past 7 days due to heavy rains hitting several parts of Somalia. In a statement, the humanitarian agency said that among the dead were 14 children and 7 internally displaced people. The Somalia Water and Land Information Management warned of an imminent danger of potentially unprecedented flooding expected along the Shabelle River in the coming days, and the concern for safety and well-being of the people along the river. The heavy rains have hit various parts of the country, triggering flash floods, which have killed and displaced people and also inundated farms. Forecasts suggest the rains will begin to subside from mid-May. Scores of people have protested near the Israeli embassy in the Jordanian capital Amman against the repression of Israeli police to Palestinian residents. The demonstrators chanted anti-Israel slogans and held signs in support of Palestinians. They demanded the closure of the Israeli embassy in Jordan and called for the immediate deportation of the Israeli ambassador. Protesters also called on the government to cancel a peace treaty and cut all ties with Israel.
This march today near the Israeli embassy is of great significance because it always voices the voice and the sound and the requests of the Jordanian people that they want to end any Israeli presence in Jordan, especially the presence of the Israeli ambassador and the Israeli embassy. They want to cut off all ties with the Israeli government and end the Wadi Araba agreement and the peace, the gas deal. We want also the Jordanian government to exert every effort in the case of Sheikh Jarrah's area because they have the power there. It's their ownership. They need to take a lawsuit to the higher court of justice in order to stop the eviction of the people from Sheikh Jarrah.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo corro.
To keep myself healthy, I study.
Για να διατηρηθώ υγιής, τρέφομαι σωστά.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo bailo.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo purifico mi espíritu a través del cuerpo. ¿Y tú?
Get your body. Tuesdays, only on teleSUR.
En un mundo en constante movimiento,
Todos los días se generan nuevos sucesos y es necesario conocerlos. Nos preguntamos, ¿qué hay detrás de cada acontecimiento? ¿Cuáles son las consecuencias y cómo nos afectan? Ante estas preguntas, buscaremos poner el punto en la I.
Dot in the I. Saturday, only on teleSUR.
Welcome back from the South. The European Union's Internal Market Commissioner Thierry Breton has said that the EU Commission did not renew its order for AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines. 2 weeks ago, the EU launched legal proceedings against AstraZeneca for failing to respect the terms of its contract with the bloc. The slow pace of deliveries has frustrated European nations, and they have held the company responsible for partly delaying their vaccine rollout.
We didn't renew the AstraZeneca order after June. We'll see. We'll see what happens. AstraZeneca is an adenovirus vaccine. It's a vaccine that's very interesting. It was discovered by researchers at Oxford. It is very good. It is especially interesting because logistically, it's easier to use. The temperature it's stored at. There were orders. This is where we are at now. I am being very serious here. We started this order with Pfizer Biotech because we are working with them on the second-generation vaccines. So want to put ourselves in a situation where we are ahead of others when it comes to variants.
The European Union has sealed a deal with BioNTech Pfizer for up to 1.8 million extra doses of its COVID-19 vaccine. The contract, on top of the 600 million Pfizer doses the Commission has already secured, aims to supply the bloc with enough jabs for booster shots.
We now concluded the negotiations with BioNTech Pfizer for a new contract looking forward to the years 22 and 23. The new contract secures 1.8 billion doses of vaccines, mainly because there are 3 more topics that are clear for us we have to cover with potential vaccines.
And Spain has lifted the state of emergency in place since October to fight the pandemic, allowing people to travel between regions in this case. However, regions can still restrict opening hours and impose capacity limits in bars and restaurants. They can also seek court approval for stricter measures such as reimposing curfews, controlling the number of people allowed at home gatherings, or extending a ban on internal travel. Spain is one of the hardest hit nations in Europe with nearly 79,000 deaths and 3.5 million infections. Tunisia has started a week of coronavirus restrictions covering the Eid holiday as hospitals struggle to cope with soaring COVID-19 cases. Prime Minister Hichem Mechichi said that Tunisia was going through the worst health crisis in its history and that health facilities were at risk of collapse. The new restrictions include the closure of mosques, markets and non-essential shops. Family or cultural celebrations are banned and people are forbidden from traveling between regions. An overnight curfew begins at 7 p.m. instead of 10 p.m. until 5 a.m. Tunisia has recorded over 319,000 COVID-19 cases and 11,350 fatalities.
There is a high number of patients in intensive care. Therefore, there are no available beds. The number of patients on ventilators is constantly increasing, not to mention the number of those who are waiting in the emergency room for an access to intensive care.
And Egypt expects to receive a shipment of raw materials on May 18th that will kickstart the manufacturing of millions of doses of the Chinese Sinovac vaccine. The country's health minister said they hope to become a regional center for vaccine manufacturing and also exporting in the African continent.
God willing, we will receive the first shipment of raw materials to manufacture the Sinovac vaccine on the 18th of this month. The agreement stipulates that 40 million doses will be produced in the first year, and the first 2 million doses will be produced by the end of June. As for cooperation with Russia on the Sputnik V vaccine, we met with the Russian ambassador in Cairo, and we are very open to manufacturing with Russia. And there are some private companies that have already started cooperating, and we encourage them.
Chad is yet to receive any vaccines, and healthcare workers remain in the dark when the first shipment might arrive. While wealthier nations around the world have stockpiled vaccines for their citizens, Chad has not received any so far. The country has confirmed only 170 deaths since the pandemic began, but efforts to stop the virus have been elusive. Although the capital's international airport was closed briefly last year, its first case came via someone who crossed one of the land borders illegally. Regular flights from Paris and elsewhere have resumed, increasing the chance of increasing the more than 4,835 already confirmed cases.
We could say, okay, there is no vaccination, but here, as vaccines start to become available, I think it's a real shame that until now, while elsewhere everyone has been vaccinated, we're here still now have been not vaccinated, especially health workers. Whether rich or poor, everyone must have the opportunity, the chance to be vaccinated, especially those who are most exposed. When I hear, for example, in some countries that they are finished with the staff, they are finished with the elderly and carry on with other categories, while in other countries, even people who work are not vaccinated. Honestly, it saddens me. What I am asking is that all the countries that have not received the vaccine should get it, to at least protect the health workers who work there.
The Syrian military has captured rebels who had launched an offensive in the administrative region of North Qenem. The army announced that it had regained control of North Qenem and have arrested some rebel fighters. The Syrian military has also seized their weapons and called on residents who had fled the region to return to their homes. The rebel group Front for Change and Concord in Chad did not comment on the government's victory claim. However, the transitional military authorities have previously said they have defeated the rebels only for fighting to continue. Clashes between government forces and rebel fighters had claimed the life of veteran President Idris Deby Itno.
The war has come, and we were able to control the situation. We brought in the prisoners and their equipment. We cleaned up the place, and there's nothing left now. The situation is back to normal. I would like to say to the population, don't worry, there is nothing left.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and also Telegram. For Telesur English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.